There was actually a 1 week period where I more or less shut myself in a very small hotel room in Tokyo. So I came up with like an alternative concept. That was what was to become Polkadot.
Today we launch. Okay, today we launch.
Taking all of those ideas and then applying them to bleeding edge distributed decentralized systems. Awesome. People want to be able to do things.
Bring in the moment people, make everybody able to run your stuff on the decentralized computer.
Here is some construction material, here is some know-how. Build what you think is going to be the best thing that it can be.
If this is the scope of Web3, crypto, blockchain, not only compete within it, but try to go beyond it and see what else is possible.
This freedom is well earned, and we should use it as best as we can.
Welcome everyone. We're here to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Parity. We're going to chat about history and also see what was the background and the story of how we got where we are today. Gavin, tell us about how Parity was founded, which was originally called Ethcore, and tell us about the early days.
Well, it sort of began conceptually, I suppose it began when we were in, we'd launched Ethereum, so it was like autumn 2015. And, it seems odd now, but, back then ETH wasn't worth very much. It was down to like 50, 40 cents. And the Ethereum Foundation didn't have any real capital, and its ETH reserves didn't seem to be so extensive. So Vitalik and I sort of, and a bit Jeff, but mostly Vitalik and I were like, let's try and do something like that maybe can get some investment, that can continue down this path. This was sort of the basis of the initial meeting that we had in London, that sort of put down the ideas for Ethcore, for what was to become Parity. Vitalik, after this meeting, a few weeks later, sort of said he didn't want to be a founder of the company, but he would be an advisor. So that's where sort of he fit in. And we sort of, we knew that the Ethereum sort of chapter, the Ethereum Foundation chapter was sort of coming to a close, and that it made a lot of sense to sort of go off and try and create this like Ethereum sort of spin-off that would be potentially could receive investment, go into products. That was the sort of premise that we began with, put in a bit of seed capital. I think we sort of raised, between ourselves a few tens of K, and we set about seeing if there was, because there were a lot of people that were that were working in FDev that were uncertain of the future within FDev. Again, Foundation didn't have so much money, so it couldn't really guarantee anyone's future. And that's basically where, we sort of decided, let's create this Rust client for Ethereum. That was our first sort of technical project. And so two of the coders that were sort of very prominent in the C++ team in my part of Ethereum, Arkady and Marek, were very keen on sort of pushing this forward. So they became sort of two of the first employees, founding employees.
And then at what point the idea of Polkadot and its paper came to be?
So yeah, we focused on building this Rust client as Ethcore. We called the Rust client Parity. For a few reasons. We found that there was no obvious way of moving forward within as core developers. There's no obvious way of moving forward within the Ethereum ecosystem for us. Of course, there were people doing application layer stuff and launching their own tokens and all the rest of it, but we didn't really want to do this because that wasn't our core competency. We were always like low-level systems coders. Around summer 2016, late summer of 2016, Marek and I were in San Francisco. I can't remember what we were doing then. Maybe we were meeting a VC or something. I can't remember. And we were just sort of discussing what, because Ethereum hadn't made much of a move towards Ethereum 2, which was what we were all about. We were like, right, we're going to be the coders for ETH 2. We're going to be the best ETH 2 client. And they really hadn't I mean, they still haven't. It's like 10 years later. So they hadn't.
The execution sharding model that they
Yeah,
wanted, yeah.
precisely. And so, at that point, it's like, we didn't want to step on their turf. So I didn't want to come up with an alternative to ETH2, but then I also didn't want to just sit around, doing the same ETH1 stuff. So I came up with an alternative concept, and that was what was to become Polkadot, which was basically this idea of having not a homogeneously execution sharded chain, but a heterogeneously sharded chain, and really push the idea of these execution shards being their own thing with their own token economies and their own program code and domain specific functionality, but also base it all on WASM, so everything was easily checkable. And a very early version of Polkadot, before I'd sort of come to the conclusion that WASM was totally practical to be used, the assumption was that the actual relay chain client would include hard-coded versions of all of the parachains. And so if you wanted to launch a new parachain type, you would actually have to get the relay chain code maintainers to sort of include your logic, which was going to be a lot more horrible, but thankfully than what turned out, which was a lot better.
Was using WebAssembly before this known, or Parity?
No one had thought of it at this point. It was relatively new in summer 2016. I think it wasn't long. I think it was around, but I think it had only just been sort of standardized, and the big sort of cool stuff was still Emscripten. And I think there was another one. I think Emscripten was in Firefox, and I think Chrome had some other thing.
Yeah.
And then the two teams sort of collaborated to standardize on WebAssembly. And then it started to become clear of a time that WebAssembly was going to be fast enough to be able to run the on-chain logic.
And then eventually Parity built Substrate, which is also interesting to talk about. It's used both within Polkadot and also outside. What was the motivation behind it?
So we started, the basis of Substrate was just Polkadot. We wanted to make Polkadot relay chain. And so if you actually go to the GitHub repository of Substrate, and you sort of, I don't know if GitHub records this, but the repository began being called Polkadot because it was Polkadot, right? It was just a Polkadot chain. And then we renamed the Polkadot chain to Substrate and took the Polkadot specific stuff out and put that in the actual Polkadot repository. And whether this was such a good idea in hindsight is arguable. It did probably create a fertile ground for Substrate to be utilized by other projects.
I think as a technological contribution to the broader blockchain Web3 space, I think Substrate is something that I'm happy I've contributed to. I think it has served a lot of purposes. That's a good thing we've achieved. This brings us to about mid-2018, mid-2019, which is where Parity eventually hired the rest of us on this table. So I want to now talk about that. You two can each say how you found Parity, why you applied, and what was the first days and weeks like.
I can go first. I think I was hired before you.
When was your...
October 2018.
Then it was earlier. But it's fine.
So I was just, I happened to be living in Germany at the time, and I kind of needed a job as I was broke. And I wanted to work in blockchain because I'd been into blockchain since 2014. A lot of my friends were in the open source movement and were into this stuff, hacking on it and things like that. I said, okay, I'll go to Berlin Blockchain Week, see if there's anything good. And I met some Parity employees at a place that was unrelated to Parity. It was just, there was free beer. And we kind of got to talking, and they were really cool people. And I said I was looking for a job, and they said, you should apply. And I applied, and I got the job.
Yeah, for me it was, I was also searching for a job. I was working for a startup before, and I was on parental leave in April April 2018, and when I came back it was there's not that much more to do, so I was getting another 5 months of I was still getting paid, but I was just doing some open source work, and then realized, okay, it's time to find a new job. And I wanted to continue doing Rust. I was doing Rust before, so like, yeah, I don't know. I found somewhere like that Parity was searching people, and I applied. It was also like I was talking to, I think first Marek, and then to Arkady, and then someone else, I don't know. And
Me.
You were also, but I think before you there was like someone else. After every step I thought, okay, I'm out now, because I was just talking. I was just talking to Marek, I was just talking to Arkady, and it was like I just talked. And yeah, with you it was kind of funny, because like I think we needed three turns until we finally met. It was like I got scheduled 2 times, and he was not appearing where I was waiting there. Well, there was still this appear in or whatever, where just a link. At one point I joined, and someone else was already there and said, okay, then I'm probably leaving, but I'm already waiting here for half an hour. And yeah, and then in the third one we met at near the Berlin office, and then yeah, we met Gavin, but it was also just talking. But then I got the job.
At the time, our interviewing was different. You used to have a call with all candidates at the time who were joining. Why was that? You wanted to like get to know everyone, or
a bit? And initially it was everyone. Like when Parity was sort of 10, 15 people, it was everyone. When we got to 30 or 40, it became just engineers, like just technical people. We grew so much in the 2020 sort of time that I was unable to do that. Like it would have been too much time. But it was mainly, it was for 2 reasons. One of them, it's like, what do they say? It's like a bad hire can cost you 6 good hires. So it was very important to me that Parity was a small company, and I didn't want to. I've had experience with bad hires in the Ethereum days, and I didn't want to risk that. But by the time people got to me, they were. I think it was maybe just one guy that in my entire history of 10 years that I said no. So it didn't happen very often, thankfully. But I was very keen to like sort of really make sure. And partly it's because I wanted to get an idea for you can get a feel for like someone's level of curiosity and intellect in half an hour or an hour just chatting about random stuff. And I wanted to make sure that the ones that I thought were going to be very capable of working with me, I knew who they were, so in time I would be able to assign them and so.
I think I was the latest in this group to join in January 2019. I was also broke at the time. I was finishing my master's degree, and halfway through it, I really wanted a break. Like I wanted a change, and I thought looking for a job and just pausing the degree would be a good idea. And I knew about like Bitcoin and Ethereum before, but I actually know very little about the space. So I think when I joined and I was interviewing, I definitely felt like the biggest imposter in the world. Like I was like, this is insane to me. I don't know the language well. I don't know the technology well. I think like my cover letter for the job posting, there was like one for Rust core engineer and there was one for JavaScript engineer. And I said my skills are better for the I know this, but I don't know this. And if I'm given the time, I would work hard and learn it. And I also had some interviews with Marek, Arkady, and then Gav. And yeah, there were. I remember I was also it was mostly talking, and it was like chilled interviews. And let's talk about like some of the things that happened in those early days of Substrate. So you invented Solidity, which was the primary language for Ethereum, and eventually you invented something similar for Substrate and Polkadot world, the SRML as we used to call it, and nowadays called Frame.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
I wrote the initial design spec for Solidity, and I mean this is kind of a fun part of building systems. It's like kind of doing this like super opinionated stuff that you can really sort of use some of what you believe are the important expression systems of expressing meaning. And it's the same is kind of true for Frame as well. So Frame came about, or SRML, Substrate Runtime Module Library. Okay, it just rolls off the tongue. It came about through, initially we were doing, we were writing Polkadot, we were writing the relay chain, and we needed some, we had a runtime that would interpret transactions, and not a runtime, a transaction interpretation system, right? And retain some state balances and staking and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, we want this to be modular. So we make a few different modules, and then all the modules are sort of like kind of hard coded. And it's like, it's not so easy to, like, for example, make the module that may have a number of transaction entry points all like automatically kind of get collated into a general transaction format. And so it became kind of initially just a way of more easily taking the code that we had anyway and sort of attaching functionality to it, like that was sort of based upon almost like metadata based upon the function names and so forth, rooting that in. And then before long it occurred to me that, obviously others are going to want to write chains as well, and they'll want different types of transactions, and sometimes they'll want similar parts of the transaction, like they may want a balances module or an assets module, an FTs module, whatever, staking, and some things they won't want to put in their chains. Sort of transaction execution system or state system, whatever you want to call it. We called it runtime. There was actually a 1 week period where I more or less shut myself in a very small hotel room in Tokyo at the Appa Hotel for one of the Ethereum conferences there then at the time, and it would have been, I guess, in late spring 2018. And I basically figured out this like associated type system that like Rust had, and that you could use the associated type system basically for wholly describing and configuring a set of runtime modules. So I prototyped, got the idea that this was going to work, and then actually set about building it, like switching out all of the code from what it was, which was totally hard coded, into this like kind of soft coded but type correct configuration system. And it took a week. Like, it was a big PR. And I was at the beginning of it, I was like, this is never going to work. But I couldn't see any reason why it wouldn't, apart from maybe compile times. So yeah, and it got done. And I actually skipped most of the conference because of that, but yeah.
In the early days, we had this declare something macros. I'm not sure if that was you or you who made them, or maybe you improved them at some point.
I improved them.
One of your first things that you worked on, maybe.
Probably. At the beginning, I was working with Gav, and he was giving me stuff, and when I joined, I had no idea about blockchain. I mean, I knew Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I knew them by name. But that was all I knew about it. It was like, it was all like a magical, like, black box to me. And we had kind of easy issues at this time. It was like, do that. And I was doing a lot of macros at this time. So that was also something, and I had think before written one macro or whatever before joining Parity, which I copied from Stack Overflow. But then I was doing working in the runtime menu. In the runtime, then one of the first things I was creating this metadata. The early metadata was actually like a JSON metadata, which we then like quite fast replaced with like the scaling coded metadata what we have today. And then I'm doing a lot of these modules of frame, or not frame, as a like Decal module and Decal storage or whatever it was. I don't remember all the names we had.
The source code for those macros is a piece of history and art to look back at. With this, like, where you parse a little bit of it, then you pass the rest to the other arm, and then this just repeats.
I had this one macro which was generating other macros. That was really crazy, but I mean, like, it was also like debugging this stuff was really complicated. It was like, I'm really happy that we are these procedural macros. I mean, they came back and they came up in this time. I think in 2018 they got it to stable. So yeah, that's when we.
And then one of the first things I remember about you, Aaron, is the launch of one of our testnets, actually for for cumulus-based chains and parachains, Rococo.
Yeah. I actually
What's the
joined.
name, first of all.
What?
What is the name?
Rococo?
What does it mean?
It's a type of art, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a period, like a period of French art, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob came out.
Yeah. I actually joined before the first Substrate testnet was launched, which was called. We named them in the same way. There's Flaming Fur.
I mean, more on that. One of the things that's fascinating about Parity Polkadot to me is like the namings that we come up with. I don't know which group of people are the masterminds behind them. Like, and there's always like links. Like Spree is like also the name of the Berlin thing. That's kind of cool.
It's not a station, but it is.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, I just want to say, like, a coincidence or not. I'm not sure, but
I didn't assume it's a coincidence. I thought it's.
I mean, it's. I mean, you know, cool.
I still remember when I was around when they named Babe. So like it was Grandpa existed before, and then I think you or someone wrote it, and then they tried to come up with words that would like these letters.
Yeah,
to make some sense.
In the end, Al went with Grandpa. Like Grandpa was Rob's suggestion for what the thing should be called. The one that I liked was Shaft.
Yeah, who comes and executes.
Something finality tool. But in the end, Al went with Grandpa.
Pretty sure I heard Jeff also suggesting something that he reverse engineered into be badass. But I forgot what it was.
It wasn't Sassafras then.
Possibly, yeah. Then 2019, Parity did something else that, again, to the best of my knowledge, was first of its kind, to run a incentivized test network, if you want to call it, like Kusama. How did it came to be, or did you think it would pull off as it did?
Yeah, I think it sort of delivered more or less what I was expecting it to. Maybe a little bit. Was maybe a little bit more valuable than I was expecting. I mean, I was maybe expecting it to get to sort of $10. It went quite a bit higher for a while, but people sort of treated it largely as what we wanted, which is something that, you know, was sat between a testnet and a production net. So a real high value, a valuable testnet or a low value production, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But like, it turns out that not auditing code in order to launch before you launch the network doesn't actually matter that much, as long as you're upfront with saying this code will not be audited before launch.
And this like chaos-based marketing of Kusama, I think, also worked out really well. People really liked it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, again, it's really just about being upfront about what it is, and I suppose, it's a good idea, to be honest, but brutally honest.
I mean, it's a really good motto. Like the tagline is just, it's so memorable, it's sticky.
Yeah. I heard a joke once that both expect chaos and no promises makes perfect fit for like underwear merch. Like you can have it on your own. Like, no promises, expect chaos. So at some point we were speaking that, you know, every retreat, everything is like a t-shirt, and socks, underwear, and then someone happens to be good.
Do you also, you were part of this retreat back 2019?
Where we named Kusama.
No, we don't rename it.
The Kusama launch, where they thought...
It was before the Kusama launch. It was in June, July or something. It was, and we launched in October, I think October.
Yeah, late 2019 we launched. And the retreat, I remember, it was in a north of Germany.
North of Germany.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I still remember us sitting there with like a laptop and in shorts, and like these other guys be there and like on their holidays in a suit or whatever, like and looking at us like, what are these freaks doing? And I think at some point they asked Sergey, like someone Sergey Atomic, like they thought they're like they're working there, like they're cleaning up or whatever.
I think they wanted to go to the pool and they were like, oh, sorry, it's only for the guests, thinking that we are not the guests. So how did we come up with the name Kusama?
Originally, I think it was sort of Polkadot Beta or something. And it was Rob that suggested Kusama, just off a well-known artist who uses a lot of polka dots in her work. And it's easy to say, it's easy to spell. It works in many different languages. It was like a sensible thing.
Did we have any conflicts with?
I think at one point there's a foundation. So I don't think it was her, but I think it's a foundation, and they sort of caught sight of the fact that there was something that had the same name, and I think they were like kind of a bit not upset, but like not sure. I think they sort of expected maybe that they were going to be asked or something, and I mean it's fine. It's like there's no legal issue with putting something that happens to have the name that is someone else's surname. That no one has protection over rights over their surname. But I mean, I think there is like definite opportunity to do something with said artist, but in this game it's all about sort of social networks and building trust and all the rest of it. So, and we are very much trust free. We're not necessarily the right people to be doing optimal people to be.
Yeah, there was an idea on Kusama for people to get tattoos and then join a club. How did this start? And
I guess people talked about it, and then someone wrote some code. Did I write the code? I might have written the code. Can't remember now. It's such a long time ago. But yeah, I'm never have said.
Bites on my leg. Yeah, sure. Basti has to leave the room because he's not.
But yeah, I mean, this I think was very helpful as a indication for two things. One of them was, can this? Kusama was created essentially as a test. Like a test net. It didn't have anything behind it, so to speak. Whatever the hell is behind crypto, I don't know. But like, it didn't have like a foundation that was like really pushing it or whatever, and spending money trying to get it promoted or whatever. And then within the context of this sort of theoretically quite vacuous crypto token, right, this bottle cap. There was this idea of, well, we'll give you bottle caps if you get a tattoo. And a tattoo is a very meaningful thing, right? It's a physical alteration to your body. I was wondering, will people get alterations to their body on the basis of getting bottle caps? What is basically bottle caps? And it turns out that, yes, they do. Like, look, there are quite a few people that have done this now. And this was kind of fun as just a social experiment, but it was also very interesting because it sort of paved the way to what would become the first mechanism for proof of personhood. So I consider it a very valuable experiment, and I'm still like quite keen on opening, spaces that will recognize those who have those who are in the society.
I still remember the society getting raided by, I think, Brazilian people or whatever.
Yeah,
Realized that
quite a few Brazilians.
because like for them it was like a lot of money that they could get. I don't know what
and
it was.
I think there was a bit of false information. Some crypto YouTube channel, maybe Coinboy or something, mistakenly said that when you join you get a reward. Then there is like a fixed income, and then it just
not the latter.
Yeah.
I think Louis joined, I think he was the 5th person or so. And I think at that point it was 1,000 KSM to join. I think that was the payout. And, I don't think it was worth that much at the time, but maybe $10 or so. Yeah. So I think he still got quite a lot of money for his tattoo. And if he'd have kept it, I think it was later to go up to about $500. So he would have made $500,000 from his tattoo.
I got 100 something, I think, when I joined. And Sean and I wanted to do this thing where he would join immediately after me. And then we would, because you have to put the identifier of the next person, we would be spammed by English. He bailed out, unfortunately.
I only got 8 KSM because I did mine during COVID. And I bought a tattoo machine. I was like, well, this will pay for the tattoo machine. So, because I didn't want to go out and get a tattoo during COVID. So I figured it was now or never because there was a ton of influx at the time.